Okay, so now we're all up for priming. All we've done is stick a couple of cocktail sticks in the back here, just to help them stand up for when they're sprayed. Obviously the road wheels they can lay down on their side because they're going to be painted black afterwards, but certainly things like these they can just stick in just like that, keeps them out of the way. Now for this, normally we spray in grey and various bits and pieces, but as I say, I don't particularly use a type of a primer, a purpose-made primer. I tend to just use a Tamiya. No matter what I'm going over, it doesn't matter if it's Alclads, Valeros, extra acrylics, no matter what the paint is, I tend to use Tamiya because it's got quite a rough bite to it, so it works quite well. So what we're going to do is just put a little bit of thinners in the airbrush and just give it a quick blow to check our pattern is all okay, which it is, so we're happy with that. So what we're going to do, we're going to pour into the colour cut. Now this is already pre-thinned in there. I didn't have much paint left in the bottom, so literally I just chucked in about 50% thinners into there, and I've given it a good shake and a stir. We'll just give it another quick stir in the colour cup as well. So we just give that a bit of a mix, but as I say, it's already been mixed. Normally make sure you've had a good mix. So what we're going to do, we're going to start on the hull. So we check our paint, and as I say, we're a nice sandy colour anyway, so it will change it a little bit, but you won't stand out. But as I say, it doesn't matter what your primer colour is, just don't end up doing a primer colour sort of black or something like that. But we're just going to run round everywhere with it, starting off with these underside areas. We're going to do a bit of the bottom just around the edges as well, just working way around our back. And remember, this is just a primer, so it doesn't have to be particularly pretty or nice. So we just go like that, just holding the bottom here. Just give it a light blow over the bottom. And the air pressure is starting to bleed off a little bit now, so in a second we'll just flick the compressor on, just leave that upside down. Okay, and then what we can do, we can just do the top side. So there we go. Cut to air, and we're just going to dry off so we can put it down. And there we go, that's primed. Now we're literally just going to run around absolutely everywhere else now and prime the rest of the model over everything, and then we can come back then and start having a look at the best way of painting it. Okay, so we're all primed up, we're all ready to go. We've moved the wheels off to a different area to keep them all out of the way, nice and clean. So the next thing is pre-shading. Now some people pre-shade armour, some people don't. There's various different techniques to do it. I'm just going to show you how I do mine. I didn't used to pre-shade, to be honest. I used to be more in line for dry brushing. But what I try and do with armour, as I found when I used to do it, is you get that sort of what I call a triple layer effect. You have your pre-shading, gives you your dirt, and it gives it that sort of, you know, the tonal difference we're trying to do, just the same as we do with aircraft and things like that. Then we can come along with a wash, various washes as we'll do with this one, not just our standard sort of, you know, aircraft type of washing. And then we're going to go around and dry brush it. Then after that we can do some further weathering to give it that sort of dusty, you know, type of look. So this has had the primer on, it's now all completely dry. So now we're going to just whip around and pre-shade it. So for this I'm just using some normal sort of flat black, quite a high air pressure. And we're going to work our way around the entire model. So if I start with the actual top turret, what we want to do is slightly different on these things. We're going to do things like corners, obviously corners of turrets, things like that. So we're going to do things like this. to actually blow them in. So if I bring you in a little bit just to show you what we've done here, as you can see, we've done this sort of corner. Now we want quite a high air pressure to really sort of atomize it so it blends in nice and easy. But we're going to go around everywhere, the entire tank, and basically pick out all the corners and any areas where there's obviously like ridges, things like that, weld lines, as you would. So instead of doing panel lines on flat areas and perhaps trying to break it up this way, we were actually looking for corners and sharp edges. And there we go. So as you can see, it's already sort of coming to life. I can pop this on here now. So now what can happen is when the next coat goes on, which will be quite a light, thin, same way as we do the actual, the other bits and pieces, that it will actually go on and start to blend in with that shading, and then we can work through and through and through. And then what we'll do is we'll slightly vary different tonal shades of the actual paint to give us a very nice sort of finish to it. So what we're going to do, we're just going to give that a moment or two to dry off, and then we'll get the airbrush all loaded up, some nice sand colour, and then we can carry on with the painting. Okay, so everything's now dried, pre-shading's all dry and we're all ready to go. For this one we're going to be using Vallejo Model Air, and it's 028, which is sand yellow. They do another sand which is 75, but I don't know, it just looks a little bit, if you compare the two, a little bit too light. Probably okay for some bleaching of panels, I think, but certainly not for the sort of base coat as we're going to be putting on here. So if we give a good old shake and make sure we've got a nice mix there, what we're going to do, we're going to start with, obviously we're going to do the underside down in here on the hull, and then on the turret we can spray the entire thing. And then what we'll do is the top half here we're going to sort of all blend in together for when we've actually got the side plates on, so it all sort of comes together in one really. So we're going to fill up the colour cup, neat as ever, straight in the colour cup just like that. Put the lid on. It's a particularly warm day today, very warm. And since we still have the problem of not being able to open a window in here till the scaffolding's gone, it's a bit warmer than normal. So what we're going to do, we'll do the lower half of the hull here first. So we're running at about 25 psi, quite a high psi, because we want quite a rough finish, if you like. So what we're going to do is start blowing in down below, quite a light dusty coat, because actually we're going to do the entire model in this sort of dusty coat. We don't want heavy painting because we want it to be a sort of a dusty finish, and then that way any weathering that we'll be doing, which comes along shortly, will stick to it very nicely, and it'll save having to go around doing lots and lots of flat coats and things like that. So that's that underside done just there, and we'll do the same on the other side. Okay, I'm running out of airbrush there, so we're just going to full tank. Give it a couple of moments just to get some pressure behind it. We're just going to work our way around the underside. Around the back here. Down the front. Okay, so that's done, so we're just going to leave that there like that. Now what we're going to do for the rest of the model, we're just going to thin down only about sort of 10% of the thinners in there. I'll stick here, I'll just give it a bit of a mix. Now the reason we're thinning it down, twofold really. One, it's a very warm day, and it is drying the paint a little bit too quick, and obviously adding a little bit of thinners to your paint will improve the flow. It will certainly improve its drying time. When it hits the model, it won't be drying just quite as rough, because at the moment it is, although that's going to work into our favour shortly, but we'll talk about that in a moment. Okay, so if we do the hull, the turret, we're going to start on the underside. But obviously because we thin the paint now, it's going to be a little bit more work to cover our surfaces. But this is where it's going to come to on our side, as you can see on the back here, because it's going to take a little bit more to cover it. Our pre-shading will show through a lot easier. If you find your pre-shading's not coming through, and every time you paint, chances are your paint's just a little bit too thick, and obviously if you thin it slightly, it'll help with your pre-shading. I'm just going to lightly work our way around everywhere. Now the thing with the armour is to make sure you come in from all the angles to make sure you get in everywhere. We'll just work the underside of the barrel here. And then nice dusty coats when you do the top, because we want it to be quite rough. Obviously we've got quite a wet mix going here, so we want it to be a little bit rough. So just do little tiny passes, and then if you can, cut to where you double action, just push down, don't pull back at all, and just dry it off. Okay, now I'm going to carry on spraying the entire thing. Okay, so our next fun part is actually painting the wheels. As we can see, we've got all this sprayed up now. Now it's just pre-shading and sand, and we're going to do a little bit more with that soon as we sort of move through with some of the weathering. But what we need to do now is basically get this lower half done, so we can get these side plates on the model just like this, and we can mask off the lower side. So we need to really get the road wheels painted now and the tracks on, get them in and done. So what we're going to do is paint the road wheels. Now obviously you've got 16 in pairs, so that's 28. Now I know, remember why I don't actually do armour very often, because painting wheels is in fact my pet hate. I really don't like doing it. It's a long, boring job. There's various ways obviously painting wheels, and I've got the tutorial on the site as well. Some people mask and spray, but when you're doing this type of thing and it needs to look like a block of rubber around a tyre, really we're back to our usual way of doing it. Have some thin paint knocked up already, as I've got here. So if I bring you in a bit, and then we're just going to work it round the tyre as we do all the others. So if we bring you in, we're going to go the same way as we do the others. See if I can see on the screen. Okay. And it's a bit thingy because normally I rest it on the edge of the desk, but we're just going to go round it everywhere like this to do the edging and work our way round. Then obviously at the same time we've got to do the inside of the tyre. So we're going to do it both like that. Then we'll do the other side, paint round the entire tyre. Probably going to need 2 coats as well, so it's going to be quite a long, laborious job to do this, to say the least. Some of the kits, which I can't think of its name off the top of my head, actually come with like a rubber area that goes round. Now if you do go over, like I've just done just there, if you can see it there, if you get your finger and just rub it to the outside, you'll rub it off, and you can carry on and you won't leave any marks. So if we just continue round here a second, as I say, I like to do it on the edge of the desk, so doing it this close up and away from me as well is somewhat of a problem. But as I say, if you work with your thin paint to start with, just like that, and then let the sort of the capillary action of the paint work its way around, and you get a nice join then, a nice line, and then you can go through. So I've got one done here already. Okay, so eventually you should come up with something like that. So obviously from both sides it's all very nicely done and you can carry through. But as I say, there's 28 to do. It's going to take quite a while, to say the least. It's probably going to take a couple of hours to actually do this. Obviously have some breaks in between because you're going to get bored after a little while and start messing around. What I'm going to do, I'm going to do half the set, then I'm going to do the tracks, and then I'm going to come back and do the other ones as well, the other sort of 16. Okay, so having a break from the old road wheels because the old eyesight starts to go after a bit, we can move on to the tracks. Now obviously depending on your tank you're doing and your kit, you're going to get different types of tracks. Rubber tracks, pretty well straightforward. They're just going to actually stick together like so when they're ready to go on. But obviously we've got to paint to them. Obviously check your references, different tracks made of different metals, they weather differently, so forth and so on. So really have a good look round, see how yours is. Now the one on the Abrams tank, if you look at pictures, they look pretty much as if they're all the same colour. But actually what you've got is obviously the metal links behind, and now they're sort of a deep sort of burnt metal look. They're a browny blacky colour. So what I'm going to do is use some of the bolt gun metal, spit it out, and some black just to darken it up, and then I might even add a little bit of brown just to give it that sort of burnt look. And then afterwards we're going to go around, and it sounds like a big job but it's actually not too bad, but we're going to paint all the rubber blocks black, like in the same colours we did the tyres. So usual thing when you're working with the Citadel paints, make sure they have a good shake to get them going. Obviously we're going to check our airflow. We're going to put in quite a dollop of thinners in first, then we're going to open up our paint. Okay, get ourselves a brush, and we're just going to take a bit of a dollop, just one little blob, not too much, and then mix it with our thinners. Now a couple of people on the forums have been saying about the Citadels are horrible to spray with. Literally it's 75% thinners to paint, perhaps a little bit more, even 80%. What you want it to be is like a dirty wash. And if you imagine when you've cleaned out your colour cup, that's how you want it to be. You want it to be very liquid, very fluid. So that's in there like that. If we shut that up, and then we're going to add some of our black. So we just give that a few drops in there to darken them up, and we're going to mix the colours. Now obviously we're mixing different brands of paint, different types of things. So make sure it has a very good mix, and then you can look at your colour and see how it is. Now if I bring you in, how well you can see down here, bring it a bit further, right? There we go. As you can see in here, it should be very fluid, very much like water, and that's how we want it to be. Very watery mix. So let's have that out. Okay, compressor's been up, but I'm going to turn it on again, so a little bit of noise. Okay, we're going to check our flow. Very nice. Okay, obviously we're going to do both sides, and we're going to do the sides as well. Sorry, if I bring you out, it might help a bit. Okay, so we're just going to all over one side, and then onto the other one. And then we'll run down the middle. Make sure you've got all your tank parts all covered up nicely, because obviously this stuff will go airborne. Okay, cut into air, and we're just drying now. So we're drying off nicely. As I say, with the quite a bit of thinners in there as we've got, you shouldn't take long to dry. Okay, so we're going to flip them over. Same on the other side. Nice generous quantities, try and get in on the sides as best as you can, and in all the little areas. Okay, we're cut to air. We'll just dry these back. Also what will happen is, obviously by spraying like this, the beauty of it is when we come along to put on our black blocks in a minute, these rubber road blocks on there, they're actually quite a joy to paint onto because the paint sticks quite well, and obviously we use Valeros here, and they don't like going on particularly shiny surfaces like rubber and things like that. Okay, when you're up like that, we're now going to come in from the side, because obviously the edges of the tracks are the things you're going to see the most. So just lift one up, and the other. Nice generous quantity of paint in the side there. Okay, dry them off a bit, back to air. Just blowing now to dry them off. And as it's been brought to my attention, I know a lot of you haven't got a double action airbrush, so you can't cut to air. But honestly guys, if you can afford it, don't have a couple of takeaways for a week and buy yourself a double action, and you will save yourself so much work. And I know a few of you just recently have gone out and bought this airbrush I'm using here, the Evolution, and you think it's £90 with your £10 discount, your 10% discount you're going to get off the forum for the Pro Modelers loyalty scheme. You're talking just over 80 quid for this piece of kit, and it is a very, very nice piece of kit. It's got the 2mm needle nozzle in there, which will do absolutely everything, and you have the smaller colour cup. Admittedly this one here has got the 5mm, you'll have the 2mm, which is this one here, which is your only difference, but you may be able to buy the actual other one, the 5mm, as a separate. If you're doing small projects, you won't need any more than a 2mm anyway. But you can buy them as a separate, as I was saying. Okay, just turn them both around now. Okay, on its edge again. Drying off. Now all over. Okay, and on the other side, let's just pull it away from that a bit. In off the side and back, and then spray the entire thing, because obviously you're coming in from the other side now. Okay, changing paint, obviously you're using a metallic paint, so make sure you get it all out. Quick swirl around with the brush. Give it a nice rub around the edges. I've got quite a stiff brush for doing this. Okay, tip out your excess, little squirt, give it a shake, tip it out, give it a nice generous quantity, about 2mm in there, and blow all that rubbish out of your airbrush now. And what you can do, another little trick I do for cleaning up, spray it onto the tissue and then just rub the end off like that, and you'll clean the needle and you'll clean the little guard on the end. There we go, if we tip that out. And then last thing I do is just plug it in the end, and it'll get any dried off. Wipe around the end, wipe around all over the needle, pull out, blow through air, and you're done. That's it. All done. So okay, we're going to let them dry now for a few minutes, let them totally dry off, put them to one side, carry on with the road wheels. Yeah, carry on with the road wheels. God. And then I've still got another, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to do. Got another 16 road wheels to paint. Joy of joys. So we're going to do that, carry on painting them, and then we can come back, do these rubber blocks, let it dry, and then we're going to fix it all to the underside of the hull. So okay, this lovely little porcupine looking thing is all the road wheels done. As you can see, they're all now drying. If you're using different coloured blacks, try not to use a flat black. If you've got a little bit of satin or a little bit of gloss, just add a touch, because obviously rubber gets that look. And then when we weather it up, it'll all become apparent, because then it polishes up quite nicely and you get that nice rubbery looking look. But that's them all done now, thank God. All 28 road wheels now done. We've got a few more, obviously, that cleat onto the actual tank as well. And we're going to do all those bits later on. So next we've got our actual tracks. Now these are all dry now. Being Citadels, they all dry quite quickly and quite nicely. Obviously we've got to do all the inside ones and then all the outside ones. Now the easiest way to do this is with a flat brush. So if you get yourself a medium sort of flat brush, do it your same rubber colour as you did the other. Okay, a little bit of a blob in there. Then pick which side you want to start. I'll start on the outside, and all you do is load up your brush a bit. Okay, start at one end, obviously being right-handed, I'll start further away, and then all you do is just block in each square. Now because we've used a dark colour, you won't have to worry about with any like going around doing the sides of these rubber blocks. And if you're using quite a thin paint, you might find that the capillary action will work its way down. But you just whip around and just brush all the blocks as you go. And if I just do a few here, then I can show you. Pull it up quite a bit because you want a nice rubbery looking block. So if I just do those, just a couple more, and then hopefully it will dry and give you that nice rubber colour that we're after. And then obviously with all the little weathering bits we're going to do to the tank to give it that sort of warm dusty look, it'll all nicely blend in and won't be too stark a contrast. So we just do this last two, I can show you what we've got. So there we go, if you can see those compared to the other. And then obviously we'll do the same on the inside. But there we go, so we'll end up looking like that. Okay, so I'm going to get these all painted up and then they can dry, and then we can start getting all the road wheels on this tank track business. Okay, so we finished doing all the road wheels. They're all done and nicely dry now. Now take your time with them and get those rubber rims looking really nice, because unfortunately it's one of those areas where if you get it wrong you're going to stand out, because on tanks, you know, they're right there, you're going to be looking at the tracks and things like that. So take your time with it, have a break between them. You know, that's taken me quite a long time to do all that. Same as we've done the tracks, they're all done now and laying down, all nice and drying and everything else, so we can let those dry. So what we're going to do now is start with our first little bit of weathering. And what we want to do is just give it a little bit of a wash around these wheels. So what we're going to do is do it the same wash as that we do with the aircraft. So we're just going to put in a drop of black, bit of thinners, a few drops of thinners to get that nice and thin. And then what we'll do, we'll just take a tiny little bit of water, 3 drops, 4 drops of water, and then we're going to give this a mix up just in here to make a very liquid wash. Now make sure you mix it well so the water gets in amongst. Now really what we're making here is a sort of Tamiya smoke, if you like, on the cheap. So what we're going to do, we've got it like that. To check your flow, do it on the inside. Just give it a white brown just on the inside of the wheel and see how it's going to look. If it all looks a little bit too dark and a bit too thick, then add a little bit more thinners and water to it, as that's just a little bit thick. So a couple more drops in there. Good mix around. Now you could use the Tamiya smoke. That's not a problem if you want to do it that way. Take a little bit off the brush, reload it up. Okay, then in here in the well, in that wheel, we're just going to give it a rub around, just like that. So if I bring you in, there we go. Just in that wheel, just like that. Just give it a bit of depth, a bit of shadowing, because we're going to come back and obviously we're going to lighten it up with a bit of dry brushing and things like that. Now the secret is with it is to make sure you stick it in somewhere to keep it upright. So if you pop it in with all the others. So if I just show you one more, same wash as the same, but really we used in the with doing the actual aircraft cockpit. Drop it in the middle, just like that. You see it go around. Hold on to it. Bit of a white brown. Don't forget, it will dry lighter. And there we go, you're all in there like that. Don't worry about bubbles, they're a sort of pop and go of their own accord. So we're going to put this one back in here. Then obviously we've got our little porcupine thing going on here, and seeing as it's holding them all up, we can go around and just give all the wheels a bit of a wash just to dirty them up. And really, we're not trying to wash them as in put mud in here. All we're trying to do is give it a bit of shadowing, so when we come around in a moment, or when this is all dry, it gives us that little bit of depth. So see it a bit like pre-shading, of when you're pre-shading your paintwork to show off your panel line wash. This is sort of in reverse, because obviously we're washing first before we do anything else. Side to totally dry off, and then we're going to do some dry brushing to really bring that to life.